Hi Shed Hackers. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the next paper. It's Unit 11, Sustainability in Construction, and it's actually an assessment paper which has been done for supporting students through their revision, and there is an online copy of the assessment material answers, which we could perhaps look at some of these as we go through. I've done some answering on the paper, so I've got some information to provide as we go, as well as we go through, we'll discuss some of the points. So we'll do half the paper now, and the next clip will be the other half, the remaining half. Okay, as usual, you write your name, block capitals, and you clearly put your centre number and registration number. You must use a ballpoint pen, black one, and you fill in the boxes very precisely as you go. Okay, it's 50 marks. I think the more recent papers are 60 marks, and it's usually around 1 hour 15 minutes. Some might be slightly longer. Okay, so it's Unit 11, Sustainability. Okay, so question 1, and you can see here we have a multiple choice situation, and the question is, which two of these features are used to reduce air leakage in a building? Well, you know, reduce means to lower in some way, and air leakage is fairly self-explanatory. So let's have a look. Is it automatic air external door closers, interlocking concrete roof tiles? No, I think it's probably silly. That one is not that one. Is it treble glazing? No, I don't think it's that one. Is it draft sealants? Yes, that links to reducing air leakage. And cavity wall insulation, nothing to do really with drafts. Okay, so the answer would be this one and the top one. So it's A and D, draft sealants and automatic external door closers. Question 2, give one way of reducing, lowering the impact of dust produced during excavation, that's digging up, I suppose, and building demolition on the surrounding environment. So how can we reduce dust in effect being produced, or the impact of dust being produced locally near a construction site? Well, common sense answer would be use water sprays to dampen down, sprays to keep dust down. Okay, and you could use a road sweep plus a road sweeping. That would be okay, as long as they're common sense answers. Okay, moving on to 3, sustainable technologies. Okay, sustainable are all those things that help maintain the planet's existence. Can be used to meet building requirements, yeah, or the needs of a building. Match the building requirements to the appropriate sustainable technologies that can be used. Okay, so you've got to match these up. Draw a line to match these building requirements to the correct sustainable technology. So we've got to link these up in the appropriate way. So electricity can be produced by, let's think, no, not passive stack ventilation. Ground source heat recovery, no, that doesn't really produce electricity, although there are methods you can do it in that way. Solar hot water panel, well, solar is the sun, so sun, hot water, so that's not to do with electricity. If there's electrical hot water panel, possibly. Large areas of planting, nothing to do with it at all. And a photovoltaic panel, well, the clue is volt electricity, voltaic panel. So that's the answer there. We'll have a bit of that there. All right. Now, air circulation. Well, the obvious one isn't planting large areas. It's nothing to do with solar hot water or ground source recovery, heat recovery. It is passive stack ventilation. The ventilation is the clue, isn't it? So that goes there. Okay, right, that's that one done. So far so good. Right, now let's look at this. Carbon emissions, this is question 4. Emissions occur, okay, they occur during the construction phase of a development. For example, when materials are transported, moved around to construction sites. Give two other ways, so let's highlight this as you go, that carbon emissions are generated on a site during the construction project. So how are carbon emissions increase during the construction phases, okay, or given off emissions to give off? Okay, right, well, I think again this is relatively a common sense answer. So you can burn oil, so fuel oil in lorries and diggers. Fuel oil is used to run lorries or generators. Let's put generators, which make power. Okay, and another way, electricity is used for lighting in the evenings in the darker months of the year, in the winter. And they all use fuel oil from the generators, but generators are also used for heating. We'll put that in the heating. We have the heat part of the building. Okay, but you could put down petrol or diesel is used to run the lorries, isn't it? Some way. Okay, so moving on to part B. Explain one way a contractor, people running the job, could reduce carbon emissions from transportation when ordering materials for a construction site. Well, this is a common sense one. You'd use local building suppliers. Just use them only. Don't use people too far away. And another one is order as much as possible, as long as you can store it on site, in one go. Avoid several orders. Okay, you don't want that. You want order all the materials as you need it, but not lots of little orders. Therefore, there's only 1 or 2 deliveries. Okay, question 5. A construction company is planning to construct planning a construction project. Give 2 ways, in which the construction company can involve the local community when planning a project. Now, the local community are the local inhabitants of the area, people that own the local houses, more than likely. Okay, and they should be in some way consulted or spoken to or met to ensure that they have a fair say in what goes on in their area. And these can take place in the local village hall or even the local school in the evenings. And discussions can take place about the building project, perhaps the access routes in and out of the construction site, how things would be kept tidy and how noise levels can be reduced and so forth. And even the design of the building can be discussed, can't it? So we'll put down through planning meetings involving site access, involving issues such as site access, even things like noise levels, and even the appearance of the building, design, and hours of work. They don't want people working into the evening, perhaps, and on Saturday they perhaps want it to be shut down after 1 o'clock. Okay, And another one could be involving building design. I'm going to put, so consultation with the community. And contractors to resolve differences. Okay? And it could be differences of opinion over noise levels, light levels, all sorts of things. It could even be where the fencing is and how they can protect habitat, e.g. habitat protection. Yeah, are they going to fence off trees, or are they going to allow trees and vegetation to be damaged? Anyway, moving on to question 6. Check your time as you're going through. I think we've got on to about sort of 15 minutes at the moment. You've got plenty of time. Explain how 2 sustainable techniques, how things can be done, reduce the cost for occupants, people who live in the building. Okay. Okay, now you have to think about this. So 2 sustainable techniques. So you can't just put down something that immediately comes to your head. It might be a little bit more complicated. So let's think. Reduced heating costs if well insulated. That's a good point. So you can have reduced heating costs if well insulated using, give an example, a structural panel, insulated panel, structural insulated panel, SIP. Please look up that, structural insulated panels, and see what you can find. There's some brilliant textbooks around, and here's one that shows a structural insulated panel going in. But it's all pre-made. Clever, isn't it? Even with the render and the windows and the insulation and the door openings all organised. You can see it's a timber frame construction underneath. And they're craned in and positioned, bolted together, see behind, to the remaining parts of the house. Okay, but look up that sustainable building. Okay, a bit of homework for you. And that's one. Right. Okay, and point 2, reduce purchase price. Okay, sustainable techniques. Okay, costs. It talks about costs for. Okay, so it amounts to reduced purchase price as some traditional methods are expensive. Now take notes as you go along, or you may even have an example mock paper to go through with your tutor. E.g. bricks and blocks cost an awful lot. And this can be over timber construction. Timber is much more sustainable if it's softwood. If softwood. Okay. If it's hardwood, it's a no-no. But softwood, good. Yep. Brilliant. Okay, let's move on a little bit. So question 7, I presume it should be. It's after 6. Okay, construction developments can cause damage to the physical environment. Okay, physical. So what's actually around it. Okay, the trees and the habitat and even buildings. And it can cause damage all sorts of ways. Even vibration can cause damage to buildings nearby and habitat and trees. But there may be other things. Let's think. One example of damage is the clearing of natural habitats. There we go. So it could be you're damaging an area of grassland and the local natural habitats damaged, like the rabbit population may be driven out, or it may be another type of animal which is driven off in some way, bats for instance, which affects biodiversity. So this is biodiversity, is when you have very many species that live together, and that is often the case. You have more than one animal or creature living in the same area as another. Okay, so hopefully I've explained that a little bit. I'm going to put down construction work can contaminate land. Construction work can now contaminate land. Now contaminate means to pollute. Okay, to pollute. Right, let's look on at what else. Construction work can cause flooding. So we can put construction work can cause flooding. Okay, as land is covered with as land is covered, which can reduce natural drainage. And this is what you get in built-up areas. You get flash flooding because the rainwater just cannot seep away quick enough. Right, moving on. Give one way that may reduce the impact of biodiversity. One way that may reduce the impact. Okay, so how can we reduce it and make allow this to carry on or even improve? So I'm going to put down provide green spaces. These are good things. Green areas. Avoid damage to green areas. Pollutants, okay, and waste being thrown around or emptied. Encourage green roof tops. Okay, look at green rooftops, green roofs. That's quite a good research area for you. All right, so look up that. Look up the word contamination. You could even look up types of flooding. All right, and I'm actually going to use this. They should consider SUDs. Okay. Now SUDs are sustainable urban drainage systems. Okay, SUDs. Look up that. There's one to revise. Okay. Okay, let's go on. Possible clearing of pollution. Let's look at using a brownfield site rather than a greenfield site can have some disadvantages. It can. I mean, this is something we should be encouraging. We should be using old land, not new land. So old land, used land is brownfield site. Fresh green land is greenfield site. They're the terms to learn. Explain two advantages of using a brownfield site for a construction project, and developer. So somebody's trying to develop this area, but they're trying to work out or discuss what are the negatives around this this aspect of using a brownfield site. Okay, what's negative? Disadvantage. And you've got to read these questions carefully because you can get easily caught out. Well, I'm going to put down possible clearing of polluted earth or land. Whoa, sorry, that's an A. Or land. Sorry about my handwriting. That's an A. And that's a really very obvious answer to some people, but not others, because when you demolish a building, often you think, well, what's underneath the ground doesn't really matter. But if it's been a factory unit and there's lots of petroleum oil or chemical spillages over the years, that land is actually quite dangerous. And there's other things that could be hidden. So removal of unused, it could be, guess what, gas pipes, big problem. Or it could be sewage pipes. Yeah, you start removing stuff like this, it starts getting very expensive. Okay, could be water drainage, but things under the ground, or you could even put I don't know, foundations. And if they're deep pile foundations, you've got a problem on your hands, because they go so very, very deep. Sometimes you can go 10 to 20 meters deep, very deep, especially in the city centres. Okay, so question 8. Let me just have a look. I think we'll get to this question and we'll do that question later. Okay, so we'll finish off this one and we'll go on to the sort of longer question at the back, which is quite in depth, looking at those buildings. Okay, which two of these use low energy embodied material? Low energy embodied material. So this is the materials that actually haven't had a lot of energy used in the processing or the actual gaining of the material itself. So let's have a look. Steel, the processing of iron ore to make steel is expensive and it uses large amounts of energy. A straw bale is grown naturally, so that's a good one. Brick uses large amounts of heat in the kiln and the digging up of the clay and the transporting of the clay to the kiln and the processing into brick. So it's not that one. And concrete uses enormous amounts of heat and energy in actually making this cement dust, and then mixing it, of course, with the stone and the aggregates and the sand, and then mixing it with more water, and then the whole thing's very expensive. That's a definite no-no. Concrete we need to move away from. Brickwork, really. Straws are good because you can actually make some very, very impressive type bricks from straws now, straw bales. So, and steel is a lot of processing. That's a no-no as well. I'm afraid it looks to me like it's timber, this one, and a straw bale. Okay. The proposed development of a residential area, where people live, okay? Where people live, okay? Just in case you didn't know, residential. May hold design features that would be beneficial, positive, beneficial to the local community. So, okay, this is a fairly simple question, but one a lot of people can get wrong very quickly because it's reading the question and understanding it. So let's have a look. We're looking at explain how two design features of a development can benefit the community. So what design features within a building development can actually benefit, make things better for the community? Often it's hard to establish that. Okay, well, I think one of them could be use natural light over artificial. Now that's more about the occupants of the building, so you may not get a mark for that. So I'm going to put a question mark. Certainly the local community, oh, I know what it could be. You could build cycle lanes. Okay, that's going to get you a mark. I think that may not, because that's more about the occupants of the building. So we'll put that as a cross. It's good that we discuss this and you can see how easy you can go wrong. So building cycle lanes is a good thing around the development. Okay. You could also suggest that you have local bus routes are designed in as part of the access road network. Something along those lines. And just think of really obvious things that can help. You could even mention design features development. You could build in green spaces for recreation. Okay. All right, we'll leave that there. Now, I'm going to leave that there now, guys, and I think in the next paper we're going to look at this more detailed question, and it's comparing the two designs of buildings. Now, this one being an older hospital school type building from the sort of 50s and 60s, and this more modern building that you may see perhaps in the new universities and research establishments around the country. Quite an interesting question, this. Okay. And look forward to the next clip, and we'll go through this, because this is worth 13 marks straight away. Yeah, 13 marks for that one question. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this clip, and you can see I've given you some research points to perhaps look up, SIPs, and you can look at sustainable timbers. You can look at what affects the local community in terms of construction work. I've mentioned here things like damaging the habitat and making noise and reducing the hours of work can actually make things better in some ways. And you can look at passive stack ventilation. Why not look at that as a research piece? Or photovoltaic panels. These are electric panels, aren't they, on roofs? Okay, there's a posh word for it, photovoltaic panels. But you can get caught out by not understanding that word, can't you? Some of the questions I think are quite easy, but you can get caught out. Okay, right. Good luck, guys, and look forward to the next clip. Okay, bye.